Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Harināma Cintāmaṇi. This is episode 5 and we are in the chapter 5 of this book, and this is about the second offense against the chanting of the holy name, which is to consider the demigods equal to or independent of Krishna. So, we will say our Mangalacharan prayers and invoke the blessings of Śrīla Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura and the entire Parampara, and then we will begin our discussion. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Viṣṇu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is the fifth episode of Harināma Cintāmaṇi, and today we will be discussing the second verse against the holy name, against chanting the holy name, which is to consider the demigods independent of Krishna. The other meaning of this offense is to consider the names, forms, pastimes, everything to be separate from Krishna. Krishna's form and Krishna's name, qualities, pastimes, entourage, everything is non-different. But to consider them separate, that is also an offense. So two meanings are there for this. And it looks like I haven't actually gone through this chapter. I'll be going through this chapter with you now. So from the heading of the chapter, it looks like Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura explained the particular meaning where it says that to consider the holy name to be independent, or the demigods to be independent of Krishna. Alright, so Jai Gadadhar Prana Janava Jivan Shri Jai Sitanath Jaya Gaura Bhaktagan. Haridāsa spoke with folded hands. Now hear about the second offense, O Lord of the universe. First he clarified the position of Viṣṇu. So to establish this as an offense, first of all the positions of Viṣṇu and the demigods has to be understood. So that is what he is doing right now. Viṣṇu is the supreme principle, not subject to the duality of the material world. He is a form full of consciousness and knowledge, existing eternally beyond the modes of material nature. Although being the absolute controller of the material world. Krishna in Goloka is the original and supreme Viṣṇu form, being ornamented with 64 transcendental qualities to enhance his blissful activities by which he performs his activities. The Purusha avatars and other plenary avatars all possess these 60 qualities in order to carry out their function. So Krishna has 64 qualities, and Narayana and all his plenary expansions have 60 qualities. and Lord Shiva has 55 qualities, and the living entities have a maximum of 50 qualities, and to the fullest degree that is exhibited in Brahma. And we have all the 50 qualities in minute quantities, all the rest of the jivas. Krishna expands as two types of conscious particles. The first is the ordinary jiva, who has 50 qualities to some degree. The second are the demigods, who have the same 50 qualities but to a greater degree. So, here there is division between the humans and the demigods. Not humans and demigods, but all the other living entities compared to the demigods. So basically there are 8.4 million species of life, and 400,000 only are among the human species, and the rest 8 million are subhuman species, animals, insects, birds, trees, like that, fish. Now, in this 400,000, some of them are actually demigods, you see, and the demigods are much higher grade human beings. So they are classified as separate from the others, the ordinary human beings and the rest of the animals and all the subhuman species. Why? Here it is explained clearly. There is a clear distinction is being made between Krishna and the demigods. So Krishna's expansions, Narayana, have 60 qualities, but the jiva has 50 qualities, and ordinary jivas have them to a much lesser degree, whereas the demigods have the same ones to a greater degree. That's all. So they are actually ordinary jivas. So that is being established here. In addition, Shiva possesses 5 more qualities. Viṣṇu has all these qualities plus 5 more which are not found in other living entities. In this way, we can see that Viṣṇu or Narayana with 60 qualities is the Lord, and Shiva and the demigods are his servants. Greater than the ordinary jivas are the demigods and Shiva. Greater than the ordinary jivas are the demigods and Shiva, and greater than Shiva is Viṣṇu, who is the Lord of the jivas and the Lord of the demigods. Therefore, whoever considers Viṣṇu on the same level as the demigods is very ignorant. Some people claim that the Brahman without qualities takes on qualities when it expands as Brahma, Viṣṇu and Shiva. So, according to this impersonalistic understanding, they say that Brahman, the impersonal Brahman, when he comes into this material world and takes on a form, it takes on a form of different living entities, sometimes as demigods, sometimes as the living entities, ordinary human beings and other subhuman species. Now, their understanding is the sky is one, but when there is a pot, the sky within the pot is separated from the sky outside, but it is still sky, but it assumes the shape of this pot inside the pot. And according to the size of the pot, the sky is of bigger size within the pot. If there is a big pot, the sky within the pot is big, and if there is a small cup, and the sky within the pot is small. So they say, the impersonalists say, the Brahman is all same, but when it takes on this shell of the body, which is like the pot, the Brahman, the part of Brahman that is contained within that pot is bigger or smaller according to the size of the pot. So, the demigods are non-different from Brahman. We are also non-different from Brahman. It is just that our covering pots are different sizes, that's all. This is their explanation, Mayavadi's explanation. But that is nonsense. So this is the reason why they say the demigods and Krishna are one, and we and Krishna are also one. Everything is one. Krishna is also just one of the, is just a bigger pot. That's it. When he came into this world, he was just a much bigger pot than, us, who are like small cups. But the Brahman inside, the sky inside this small pot and big pot is the same. And ultimately when the pot is broken, it all mixes with the big sky. So this is their nonsense understanding. But we are not pots, you see. We are not, the body does not, see, the Brahman is not cleavable. There is no, the Brahman cannot be cut. Okay? So a body cannot cut the Brahman into two. Oh, Brahman inside the pot and Brahman outside the pot. inside the body and outside the body. Nainam chindanti shastrani, and there is nothing in this world that can cut the spirit. So how can the spirit be cut into pieces? So this is nonsense philosophy. But their understanding is like that, and this is why they consider all same. So therefore, for them it doesn't matter whether you serve Krishna or whether you serve demigods or whether you serve humanity or whether you serve animals. It's all the same Brahman. Manav Seva, Madhav Seva. This is their understanding. So, some people claim that the Brahman without qualities takes on qualities when it expands as Brahma, Viṣṇu and Shiva. However, the conclusion of scripture is that Narayana is supreme and is the cause of Brahma and Shiva. Whoever rejects Viṣṇu as a supreme controller and takes to worship of demigods falls into the world of illusion. Other people claim, now of course there are so many reference verses for all these claims that are being made here, but we are expecting that devotees do understand this. This session is not to convince somebody else to become devotee now, but for the devotees to strengthen their faith. So if you want to, of course devotees also strengthen their faith by understanding where the slokas are. But I expect most of you to know the basic slokas, that at least in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna condemns demigod worship, and 720, 721, 22, 23, and also 923, 25, and also 1840, 10.2, 10.8. So many things, so many verses are there that easily show. And also I think, what is the other one? 18.13, I think. So there are so many verses like that. No, sorry, 8.13. I think 8.13. No, not this. Is it 18.13? I don't know. Let me just search for the verse. Krishna. 7.13. Tribhir gunamayair bhavairabhi sarvamidam jagat mohitam nabhijanate mamebhya paramavyam. So there are so many verses like this that even in Bhagavad Gita alone, apart from other verses, Bhagavatam and other Puranas. So other people claim that since Viṣṇu is all pervading throughout the universe and is present in the demigods as well, one can worship Viṣṇu by worshipping all the demigods. So Viṣṇu is all pervading, therefore the beggar is also Viṣṇu, demigod is also Viṣṇu, dog is also Viṣṇu, everybody is Viṣṇu. So, but this is not the ruling in the scriptures. Rather, this type of activity is forbidden. By worshipping Viṣṇu, all other worship is perfected. Just as by giving water to the root of a tree, the branches become satisfied. By worshipping Viṣṇu exclusively, all worship is covered. This is the Vedic conclusion, but unfortunately the fools reject this precept. Under the influence of Mayavadi philosophy, the living entities of Kali Yuga put Viṣṇu on the same level as the demigods. In truth, however, the demigods give only limited result, whereas worship of Viṣṇu yields all results. If the materialists can understand this truth, they will take to Viṣṇu worship and achieve all results. How should a householder in Varṇāśrama system act? Generally, he should give up worrying about inferior obligations and simply worship Krishna. This is how all the inferior obligations, there are many obligations in Grihastha ashram or Varṇāśrama system. But generally, the principle is that you should give up worrying about all the inferior obligations and simply worship Krishna. In other words, in all the samskaras from insemination to funeral rites, Krishna should be worshipped using appropriate mantras from the Vedas. And in Kali Yuga especially is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. One should worship the Vaishnavas and Viṣṇu directly and worship the forefathers by giving them prasad from Viṣṇu. To directly worship the demigods as the Mayavadis do will only shorten one's life. Whoa. That's... So if you want to shave off some life, shave off some years from your life, then you can worship demigods. Then. So to think that the demigods are independent of Viṣṇu is an offense. Since the demigods take their existence from Viṣṇu, in them one cannot find full perfection. Even the controlling powers of Brahma, Ganesh and Surya come from Krishna. They do not have independent power. Therefore, the Grihastha Vaishnava should recognize one Supreme Lord Viṣṇu and regard the demigods as his dependent energies. Thus, the Grihastha, though following the rules and regulations prescribed in his caste, will give up all those rules which include demigod worship aimed at sense gratification and hold firmly to the path of bhakti, worshipping him alone in all cases where worship is prescribed. So, because in Grihastha Ashram, why this Grihastha Ashram point was made in this offense, regarding this offense, is because in Grihastha Ashram there are many prescribed sacrifices for the demigods. The Panchasuna Yajna is one of them actually. And the Panchopasana is one of them. So all these kind of Karmakanda rituals are there in Grihastha Ashram. So what to do with that then? If we are to understand that Krishna is the source of the demigods and not equal to them. So that's why this is mentioned. In this way, the Grihastha, with his mind fixed on devotion to Krishna, will perform the samskaras of his caste, satisfy the ancestors by Viṣṇu Prasāda offerings, and offer oblations to the demigods by recognizing them as the devotees of Krishna and then taking Prasāda himself. He knows that by worshipping Krishna and the Vaishnava, all results are attained. Thus, he always chants the holy name, being careful to avoid offences such as the second aparad. Now, I just want to add a point here. This text, seemingly confirms or seemingly proposes the Grihasthas to also worship the demigods, but as parts and parcels of Krishna. Now, we have to always give that respect, not only to the demigods, who are actually great devotees of Viṣṇu, but also to the ant, everybody is a part and parcel of Krishna. So definitely, because the demigods are rendering exceptional service to Lord Viṣṇu, they have to be given that respect of exalted Vaishnavas. But that does not mean we start putting their pictures in the altar and then start worshipping them. Oh Prabhu, I am just serving Vaishnavas, because without serving Vaishnavas I cannot get Krishna, so I will worship all these demigods. So we cannot do like that. So if you remember, there is this verse in Bhagavatam, Sarvadeva Mayo Guruhu, I think 11, 17, 27 Bhagavatam. So the Guru is the representative of all the demigods anyway. And it's not just that, the demigods are all there when the Prabhupada is there. Not like that. We should not worship, the devotees should not worship the demigods. Because it will eventually lead to, mixing of the philosophy and then degenerating into a normal pantheistic model where one worships everybody. So sometimes, like devotees, they will have all kinds of speculations. Vaishnavas are actually more merciful than Krishna. So I am having some problem. So the demigods are Vaishnavas. So they are more merciful than Krishna. So they will solve my problem. Because they are more. I actually don't want to disturb Krishna. Because I don't want to disturb him as a devotee. I don't want to disturb him for all my material things. But since demigods are Vaishnavas, they will always help, other Vaishnavas. So I will just ask them so that Krishna is not disturbed. I want to just pray to him that I want to become his servant. But on the side, I will just, take some help from the demigods. So, so many kinds of concoctions can start. That is why even though Rupa Goswami prescribed in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that devotees should worship Ganesh before worshipping Krishna, so that Ganesh will take out all the obstacles in one's devotional service to Krishna. It is actually a spiritual way of worshipping Ganesh, requesting his favor to help us in our devotional service. Just like the gopis also prayed to Katyayani Vrata. Katyayani, they did the Katyayani Vrata, praying to Durga to give Krishna as their husband. Patim me kurute namaha. So, Nandagopa Sutam Devi, Patim me kurute namaha. So they said, please give the Nandagopa Sutam, the Nanda Maharaj's son, as our husband. So they were praying to the demigods for Krishna, for their devotional service to Krishna. So that's different. Now we may start off like that, but it may end up somewhere else, and because of our past habits. So seeing all these things, we have to understand these instructions through Srila Prabhupada. So we should not make the mistake that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, actually what Bhaktivinoda Thakur meant, we don't understand. We will, he looks like, we can do all kinds of seemingly karmakanda stuff. We can do, yes, but how to do, we have to learn from Srila Prabhupada. Not karmakanda stuff, like offering to, the forefathers. Actually, for the devotee, there is no need, but sometimes because of the family pressure, there has to be done some kind of ceremony at least, So, what to be done? This is how it is to be done. Offered to Krishna, and then the prasadam should be offered to the departed soul. So, in that way. And the demigods, one should always, remember the verses of the Brahma Samhita, which has so many verses regarding the demigods as servants of Krishna. So, in that way, one can always chant Brahma Samhita verses. Then one is automatically respecting all demigods. But just by chanting Hare Krishna itself, one should understand that one is already respecting all living entities, not what to speak of, demigods. And one should not be too much concerned about worshipping them. For what? What do we want from them? If we want anything material, that's not good. And even if we want anything material, we should go to Krishna. Akamos karma, what is that? What is that? Akamo va sarvakamo va mokshakamo udaradhi. Akama sarvakamo va mokshakamo udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purushah param. Whether we are full of desires or no desires or desiring liberation, whatever is our situation, we have to only worship Krishna for that. He will not be disturbed. It is not that you can disturb Krishna. We will be disturbed, because what is disturbance? I am doing one thing, you are disturbing me, and means diverting my attention to something else. That is disturbance. But Krishna is not like us. He can focus on this. He can focus on a trillion things at once. He can focus on innumerable things at once. He is personally taking care of every single living entity. And how many living entities are there? And every living entity, especially when a devotee prays to Krishna, he feels personal connection with Krishna. So how is this possible? How is he personally engaging with everyone? It's not that he is engaging here and he cannot engage there. We know the pastime in Dwarka where he was in all the 16,108 palaces at once. There's nothing wonderful for Krishna because he is already there in millions and trillions of hearts of every single living entity. So what is the difficulty for him to live in 16,108 palaces at once? And doing different things at the same time. So he is akunthamethasa. That means there is no limit to his brain. Not like ours. Because we have a limit, that's why we are disturbed. Our attention is diverted from one thing to another. But if for Krishna, his attention is fully here and fully here and fully here and fully here, everywhere. Sarvatah panipadam tat sarvatoksha shiro mukham sarvatah shrutimal loke sarvama vritya tishtati. Everywhere, his eyes, ears and everything, he is hearing everything. Not that he is hearing one thing and he cannot hear the other thing. No, he can hear everything clearly. What is in our mind, he can hear. So Krishna will never be disturbed, don't worry. This is all excuse to do demigod worship. So there will be so many excuses like that. So we should know how to apply all these things from our Guru Srila Prabhupada. Of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also means that way, like what Prabhupada is saying. But sometimes we misunderstand. So he knows that by worshipping Krishna and the Vaishnava, all results are attained. Thus, he always chants the holy name, being careful to avoid offences such as the second aparadh. The question may arise, why one should follow the Varṇāśrama system at all? The answer is that everyone who has taken human birth must follow this system. By this scientific arrangement of society, the general masses of people can attain to their full capacity according to their individual nature and gradually attaining devotion to Krishna. Those outside the Varṇāśrama system should be made to give up all bad habits and begin practicing as Shudras. They should first of all give up their bad habits and begin as Shudras. This must be the path for civilized society to carry on life. But of course, Prabhupada is making them into Brahmanas. Of course, that is when a person accepts devotional activity, then he is more than, because he is Vaishnava, more than Brahmana. But now, a person who is not Vaishnava, then he has to be given up, he has to give up bad habits and at least start a Shudra in the Varṇāśrama system. The worship of Krishna is an essential part of the Varṇāśrama system. Samsiddhim haritoshanam. So, the whole point of Varṇāśrama system is to satisfy Hari, Krishna. The worship of Krishna is an essential part of the Varṇāśrama system. If the four Varnas carry out life according to the rules of their particular caste but do not worship Krishna, they simply go to hell. That is stated in 11.5.3 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Ya esham purusham sakshat atma prabhavam ishwaram nabhajantya vajananti sthanat bhrashtaha patantyatha. That means those who are in this Varṇāśrama system, whether as Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, Sannyasi, Brahmachari, Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas, whatever position one is in, if one does not worship Krishna, he will fall down. 11.5.3 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Particularly, the Grahastha must follow the rules of his Varna in performing his worldly activities of raising family and relating with the rest of society, but at the same time, according to his means, he must worship Krishna. And he must respect and follow these rules as long as he has not come to the platform where the rules hamper his progress in worshipping Krishna. This is important. Now, this is an ordinary Grahastha, not those who are not really devotees yet. See? So here it is mentioned, let's read that again. Particularly, the Grahastha must follow the rules of his Varna in performing his worldly activities of raising family and relating with the rest of society, but at the same time, according to his means, he must worship Krishna. And he must respect and follow these rules as long as he has not come to the platform where the rules hamper his progress in worshipping Krishna. This is the platform technically known as Bhava. So at Bhava stage, just like, Madhavendra Puri has written, right? You remember? Yadavadhi mama chetam Krishna Padaravinde. No, that is Yamunacharya. This is different. Sandhya Vandana Bhadramastu Bhavato Bhoh Snana Tubhyam Namo Bho Deva Pitarascha Tarpana Vidho Naham Kshama Kshamyatam Yatra Kvapi Nishadya Yadavakulo Tamasya Kamsadvisha Smaram Smaramagham Harami Tadalam Manye Ki Manye Name. O my prayers 3 times a day, all glory to you. O bathing, I offer my obeisances unto you. O demigods, O forefathers, please excuse me for my inability to offer you my respects. Now, wherever I sit, I can remember the great descendant of the Yadu dynasty, Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa, and thereby I can free myself from all sinful bondage. I think this is sufficient for me. So when one realizes this, then one doesn't have to follow anymore. So it will become actually an impediment. It will become a waste of time doing that. Because he has already understood and he is already on this level where just service to Krishna is the real deal. So by good fortune, we are introduced to the principle of devotional service in a way where we naturally engage ourselves in so many activities related to Krishna. And we have, at least even those devotees, who are, as we are on the even, Bhakta Adhama platform, 3rd class devotee platform, we still have, by the mercy of Śrīla Prabhupada, some attraction for this process. And that's why we are taking to it. Otherwise, nobody is paying us to take to this process, right? In fact, we are offering our services, we are offering our money, we are offering our time for Krishna. Why? And sometimes gets chastised also. So why are we still sticking on to this? Because there is some rasa, there is some bhava, there is some, at least it's not to the level of high stage bhava of Radharani or what, but it is the beginning of bhava. It is minute quantity, but still it is there. Otherwise, we will not stick to this. There is some rasa involved, right? Mellow. So, by the mercy of Śrīla Prabhupada, we are introduced to the system where we are given a plethora of activities, a whole range of activities in Krishna's service. Krishnarthya Akhila Cheshta. So, where do we have time to offer, forefather Pindadan, or some demigod worship, some this and that, karmakanda, panchasuna yajna, panchopasana, when we don't have time. And it's not necessary also. In that state, so when we come to that, the rules hamper the progress. So that is called niyamagraha. Following too many rules and regulations that are not needed actually. The essence must be followed. When one has not understood the essence, yes, okay, then the other things are there to just guide one slowly to this point. But once one has reached this stage of devotional service, there's no need to do anything else. In that state, the jiva develops sadhana bhakti. You see, this is sadhana bhakti. It's not talking about very high grade bhava. In that state, the jiva develops sadhana bhakti, in which the inspiration to perform devotional activities comes directly from the taste experienced by the pure jiva. Very nicely explained. This goal will eventually be achieved by the Grahastha Vaishnava who accepts Viṣṇu as supreme. So sadhana bhakti, when one starts, automatically one can give up all the other. So those karmakanda things are only essential as long as we have not taken to the sadhana bhakti platform yet. Once we have taken up, then it's no more needed. There is one other offense derived from not accepting Viṣṇu as the supreme, one without a second, or Advaya Tattva. Being the Advaya Tattva, Viṣṇu, his inconceivable energies possesses inherently name, form and qualities which cannot be considered separate from him. So this is the other meaning of the second offense. I don't know if you remember. Let me remind you of this. CC. There are two meanings to the second offense. Every time in the morning when we remind ourselves of the offenses, we only say the one meaning, one of those meanings. But there are two meanings. So this is the second. The second namaparad is described as follows. Shivasya Shri Viṣṇu Yaiha Gunanamadi Sakalam Dhiya Bhinnam Pashyet Sakhalu Harināma Hitakaraha. So Shivasya and Shri Viṣṇur Yaiha Gunanamadi Sakalam Dhiya Bhinnam. So either Shiva and Viṣṇu, if we consider them as separate, in the sense that Shiva is independent of Viṣṇu, then that is an offense. But the other one is Shivasya. Shiva also means auspicious. Shivasya Shri Viṣṇur. So the Shri Viṣṇu's auspicious Gunanamadi Sakalam, auspicious qualities, name, form, pastimes and everything. Dhiya Bhinnam. Dhiya means to consider, and Bhinnam means separate. So the auspicious qualities, name and pastimes and entourage of Viṣṇu, if you consider them separate from Viṣṇu, not accepting them as non-different, that is an offense. So two meanings. Okay? So that's why Advaya. What is this? So there is one other offense derived from not accepting Viṣṇu as the supreme, one without a second, or Advaya Tattva. This is actually a very important thing. I don't know if you have noticed something in the sentence. I just realized something else. So this is interesting. See, the one meaning is the demigods and Krishna, to consider them equal, that is offense, right? So to consider the demigods as powerful as Krishna is an offense. Or the other meaning is, when we consider them equal, Krishna is as less powerful as demigods. So what is the difference between the demigods and Krishna? So any living entity in this material world, there is duality, Advaya. So our soul and our body are different. Our name and the soul is different, right? The name is attached to this body, but the soul is different from the name and form and everything. So there is a difference between the name and the person and the name and form and everything in this material world. So there is a duality. Water substance and water name is different. I cannot get the benefit of drinking water by chanting the name water. So, but in the spiritual world, it is Advaya. It is non-different. Krishna and his name are non-different. So that is transcendental situation where Krishna and his name are all non-different. But if we consider them as different, that means we are accepting him as one of the conditioned living entities, like Dvaya, and not Advaya Tattva. So when we consider Krishna as equal to the demigods, so they are also having the same duality conception. I mean, he is also having the same duality conception that his name, himself and all is different. That means he has a material body. This is very subtle actually, this is very profound. The connection between the two meanings is here. That if we consider Krishna as one of the demigods, we will be considering him as a conditioned soul in this material world. And that is offense, but it also means that we will separate when we separate himself and his name and form and everything, it implicitly means that we are accepting him as one of the conditioned souls in this material world. So, wow. How many of us even realize, I mean, Krishna and his name are non-different. We accepted it as theoretically, but if we really realize it, we will be unflinchingly chanting, always chanting, right? Like Haridāsa Ṭhākura. Why would we want to be separate from Krishna? But we have now, of course, not reached that stage. That means we have this problem where that's why that's why it is an offensive stage of chanting. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm not committing that offense, considering them independent and all that. Okay, I'm not doing that offense. But you see how subtle this is? This is why this is Namaprad stage that we're doing, and how elevated the stage of Namabhas is, where one does not do this mistake. Wow. That's a very good insight. So, we'll read that again. There is one other offense derived from not accepting Viṣṇu as the Supreme. It is derived from the same thing. One without a second, or Advaya Tattva. Being the Advaya Tattva, Viṣṇu by his inconceivable energies possesses inherently name, form and qualities which cannot be considered separate from him. To consider the name etc. as different from the Lord is to consider the Lord and the name on a material level. This is exactly what I was saying. This concept of duality is offensive. At the stage of Namabhas, one may hold this conception unconsciously from lack of knowledge or faith. That means in the Namabhas also this kind of conception is there. But it is impossible to hold this conception at the stage of prema. Look at that. That means only when one has attained prema can one fully understand that Krishna and his name are absolutely non-different. One can realize this. But at this point, we are officially accepting it, but we have not realized it. This anartha can be removed by the mercy of the bona fide Guru, who will guide the practitioner in sadhana bhakti so that the Shuddha Nam, the pure name, is revealed. So this is why we have to. So how the mercy of Guru will come? See, the mercy of Guru, for example, Śrīla Prabhupada's mercy is always accessible. It's not that his mercy is locked up somewhere and it's not accessible. It is accessible always. But the problem always is with us. We don't want to open the door. We want to keep the mercy locked up. So we have to accept the process given by Śrīla Prabhupada, and that's why we have to read and we have to chant, we have to follow all the rules, we have to work under the guidance of devotees and engage in practical devotional service. All these activities are there, and so when we engage in all these things, then Krishna from inside, he will give us, as we are serving more and more the instruction of the spiritual master, the more and more Krishna will give them the knowledge, the dāmi buddhi yogam tam, To who? Bhajatam priti purvakam. Tesham satatayuktanam. Always they are engaged. Bhajatam priti purvakam. They are always engaged in my devotional service with love and affection. Then dadami buddhi yogam tam. And Krishna will be satisfied by that. And yena mam upayantite. So satata yuktanam. How to be satata yuktanam? Always engaged in devotional service. So the spiritual master gives us a whole range of services, because we are not capable enough to chant like Haridāsa Ṭhākura. Seeing our restless character, he has given us multitude of activities in service to Krishna. So we have to do that. We have to do all those activities. And in that way, we are constantly reminded of Krishna, even in our restlessness. And slowly, the mind will become more and more steady. And any activity one performs, one will deeply be involved in it, knowing well that this is an offering to Krishna. Addressing Krishna personally, the deity of Krishna, and doing some work for Krishna, it's literally the same thing. There's no difference. There's no Advaya. It's all Advaya. That means there is no difference between Krishna and his devotional service. And the devotional service is also, one is cooking, one is dressing the deities, one is cleaning the floor, one is organizing a festival, one is building a temple, one is distributing books, one is speaking about Krishna. All these services are Advaya. And that also we sometimes don't realize. We think, why I should wash the pots, why he is managing the temple. Hare? There's no difference. There's no difference. The services, everything is Advaya with Krishna. So one has to just do whatever service is allotted to him with full attention. Doing the best with every single attention to detail. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his associates, he went to Gundicha temple, and there is a Leela of Gundicha Marjan, cleaning the Gundicha temple. Now, they put so much effort in searching out all kinds of dust, wherever the dust is, wherever there is dirty, everything. There was a competition who can collect more dust. So that means how much attention to detail is required to get out dust from all kinds of nooks and corners of the temple. So, but what is the big deal in cleaning a temple? What is the big achievement by doing that? How does it change the world or what? It does, because that's where we learn how to do our service attentively. Whatever small service is given. Now, when there is bigger service, there are many things that we need to give attention to. Right? So, if I can't handle a simple service with full attention to all the details, how can I handle any bigger service where attention is to be given to many details? And whether bigger service or smaller service, according to my capacity, whatever I do, my best, that is always the same. Like Lord Ramachandra, for him the squirrels throwing some small grains of stone like that, and Hanuman's throwing big boulders in constructing the Ram Setu bridge to Lanka, were the same for him, because according to their capacity they were doing their best. So we have to do our best. Whatever is our capacity, we have to give it our all. So then, yes, dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. And as much as we put in our effort, that much only Krishna will reveal. So if we put little effort, then he will reveal little only. The ecstasy also one experiences only little. The more one engages in the service, the more ecstasy he will feel. It's the difference. And the more we stay away from service, the more morose we become as devotees. So the more we engage in service, the more we will realize the absolute nature of service and Krishna. And because when one receives that ecstasy, It is the same ecstasy as when one meets Krishna. When one is in full Krishna consciousness, busy in serving Krishna, then he is actually with Krishna. So there is no difference, and one will realize that when he is engaged in such service, the more and more we engage, the more we receive such inspiration. By material speculation, one can bring about this concept of duality in the Lord. See, by material speculation. And it can become a serious offense which is difficult to remove. See, this is, it's difficult to remove, By material speculation, one can bring about the concept of duality in the Lord, and it can become a serious offense which is difficult to remove. Thus, in the case of the Mayavadis, holding to this concept is an aparad. The Mayavadis claim that the impersonal Brahman is the supreme truth, without variety, character or energies, without form or beauty, without change or activity, simply pure existence. For them, the name and form of Viṣṇu are creations of Maya, the material energy of illusion. When a person can overcome illusion, then Viṣṇu simply merges into the impersonal Brahman. You see, this is their understanding. When a person can overcome illusion, then Viṣṇu simply merges into the impersonal Brahman, losing individual identity. This is all simply bad logic based on atheism. So, if we do this offense, subtly we are actually tending towards Mayavadi philosophy. How dangerous this is, you see. How dangerous. To claim that the supreme truth is without all inconceivable transcendental energies or is unable to possess character is madness. There may be some confusion of what to call the supreme truth, Brahman or Viṣṇu, but in either case the highest realization must be God with energies and personality. That is the Vedic conclusion. Actually, Viṣṇu has both features in himself, Nirvishesha and Savishesha, without variety and with variety. This is possible by the inconceivable power of God, the supreme powerful. All opposites are assimilated without difficulty. By this inconceivable power, the Supreme One can exist with variety, beauty and Leela. Of course, the Jiva, being naturally of small intelligence as a particle of God, cannot fully understand the nature of the Lord's inconceivable power. In the attempt to establish a concept of the Supreme Truth by his own intelligence, the Jiva takes shelter of material logic and accepts the secondary feature of the Lord or impersonal Brahman, which is a state of unity and peace, as the Supreme. So we try to fit the Lord into our imagination or our intellectual capacity, and we will try to justify, okay, this sounds logical, so this will be the explanation. So this is wrong. He is inconceivable by definition. By rejecting the lotus feet of Viṣṇu, who is worshipped by the higher beings or demigods, and by then being bound up in a state of Brahman, he cannot distinguish what is good or bad for his own welfare. So, the Nirvishesha and Savishesha, the variety and non-variety aspects of the Lord, are both true. But to say that only Nirvishesha is true, that is wrong. The impersonal, the light of the Lord, the Brahmajyoti, is the impersonal aspect. So the devotee does not deny the impersonal aspect of the Lord, but to consider it as the ultimate understanding, that he rejects. You see, that he rejects. But a person who can understand that the absolute truth can exist with form and variety in a pure transcendental state can properly see that Viṣṇu, his name and qualities are all one and inseparable from him. This concept of Krishna with personality is actual knowledge. With this understanding, one can take to chanting the holy name, knowing that it is Krishna himself. Thus, one must avoid the offense of thinking materially that Viṣṇu and his name, form, etc. are different, and of thinking that other living entities such as the demigods have an existence separate from Viṣṇu. So Prabhupada gave a very simple example for us to understand how Krishna is in his name. It's like this, when we walk in the night or in the day also. In the day it is sun, in the night it is moon. So when we walk, it appears that the moon also walks with us or the sun also walks with us, because it's not that, I'm seeing the sun here, and then I'm going forward and now I'm seeing the sun there. No, I'm still seeing the sun here. You see? Usually, if it is very near to us, if it is in front of us and then we walk, and then now after some time it will be behind us. So the sun is different. When we are moving, if we go 1,000 kilometers, 2,000, 5,000 kilometers, the sun is still the same position, provided of course we go in the proper direction. So why is that so? So when we walk, we already can feel the moon is also kind of walking with us, sun is also walking with us. So if it is possible for a material object, for us to feel a material object in that way, why it is not possible for Krishna to be with us when we are chanting his name? So wherever we are going, Krishna is with us when we are chanting his name. So we should have the conviction that we are chanting Krishna's name, we are actually with Krishna. We are actually sitting with Krishna. So when we really understand this, then we will chant with full attention, full respect, like that. So we have to be conscious. So the reason why we don't take it as seriously, because we don't understand, because we are committing all these offenses. And that's why we have taken up the study of Harināma Cintāmaṇi, because in great detail he is explaining all these offenses, you see. So we can reflect on ourselves. So it's to reflect on ourselves. This is a tool to reflect on ourselves. So thus one must avoid the offense of thinking materially that Viṣṇu and his name, form, etc. are different, and of thinking that other living entities such as the demigods have an existence separate from Viṣṇu. To summarize, whoever is solely devoted to Krishna simply worships Krishna and gives up all other worship. He does not criticize the demigods or the scriptures which support the worship of the demigods, but respects the demigods as the servants of Krishna. Some scriptures may establish demigods as supreme, to establish belief in different categories of human beings, in order to raise them through regulation to the point of coming to faith in Krishna and bhakti. The true Vaishnava will see the function of the demigods and their respective scriptures in proper perspective. Criticism of Krishna's servants, the demigods, is also offensive. Now, in regards to this, now of course we have to respect all the demigods. That's true, but we should not worship them, right? That is strictly prohibited for Vaishnavas. Nowadays, there is one devotee in ISKCON who is doing videos and vlogs and all that. He is clearly chanting Har Har Mahadev, Om Namah Shivaya, and all this, Jai Mata Di and all. Wherever he is going, he will go to every kind of place, and then he will chant that demigods, glories. So, and it's becoming cheap. It's becoming Hinduized. If at all, if he has to glorify, he has to clearly explain that they are actually servants, and no need to say Har Har Mahadev or what, anything. We can always say Hare Krishna, and we can always chant the Brahma Samhita shloka, Kshiram Yatha Dadhivikara Vishesha Yogat Sanjayate Nahitatah Prithagasti Heto Yasham Bhutam Api Tatha Samupaiti Karyat Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That is proper respect to Lord Shiva as a Vaishnava in relation to Krishna. This is proper, and our consciousness, more than anything, our consciousness will be clear. Otherwise, if we make our consciousness muddy with all kinds of conceptions, because just by chanting those mantras also our mind will become influenced to think like that. So we should always stay in the lane. Otherwise, we are becoming contaminated. Krishna, how he condemned the demigod worship. Hritajnana. Those who have no brain, they will worship demigods. It is said like that. Krishna is saying like that. Not no brain, he said little brain. Should be to be a little bit more less harsh. So you have brain, but very little brain. Alpa methasa. So you see, so we have to be strict in this regard. We should not criticize the demigods. We should not hate them. We should always seek their blessings. Whenever we pass by a demigod temple or anywhere, we should always seek their blessings. But How to seek? We have to chant our Brahma Samhita shlokas. That is the safest way. That is within our parampara. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has revealed the Brahma Samhita for us. And those have many verses for Brahma, for Shiva, for Durga, for even Viṣṇu and Indra and Surya. So many demigods are mentioned in the Brahma Samhita. So we have to, make use of that and say those prayers. Standard. Make it standard. Ultimately, always Govindam Adipurusham. Nobody is Adipurusham. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship only Govinda. And all these are great devotees of Govinda. Since it is obligatory for the householder to worship the demigods according to his caste, he will worship the demigods and forefathers by offering them the remnants from their Lord Krishna. So he has to do some, he is obliged sometimes, especially the karma khandis. So, but they can do it by offering the remnants of the Lord to Krishna, to those demigods. Similarly, when the devotee sees the murti of a demigod, he will pay respects to the demigod, seeing the demigod as a Vaishnava. However, the devotee will not accept the Prasāda remnants of an offering that a Mayavadi has made to Viṣṇu. Not only Viṣṇu, of course, demigod Prasadam we cannot accept because they are offered in the wrong way. In Jagannath Puri, they are offered to Jagannath first and then it is offered to the demigods and then given out to the public. That is different from somebody offering direct to the demigods. The pujaris and other temples, they just offer direct to the demigods, and what are they following? Even they are for tea and coffee. The demigod also won't accept, and it's all contaminated. Even if it is properly given to the demigods, it is not in the proper process because a Vaishnava only knows how to give to the demigods. Because the demigods are devotees, so they will only take prasadam actually. So they will only take Krishna prasadam. So they won't accept anything other than Krishna prasadam. So even if a Mayavadi has offered something to Viṣṇu, we cannot accept. Because the Mayavadi's chanting and worship are both offensive, the Lord never accepts his offering. That is the point. So it is not actually prasada, because the Lord does not accept. Also, to accept offerings made directly to the demigods is an offense to Viṣṇu and obstructs the path of pure devotional service. But by worshipping Krishna, the real devotee will give the demigods the Lord's prasad out of respect. Such worship and receiving such prasad is not offensive. In this way, the devotee avoids the second offense in the chanting the name, and by continuing this process correctly, he achieves love of God. So, in other words, when we accept demigod prasadam from the demigod temple, we are committing the second offense. Look at this. Look at this. How many angles there are to just this one offense. If by accident one should happen to turn from accepting Viṣṇu as supreme, one should be repentant and take shelter of Viṣṇu and be careful not to commit the offense again. By remembering Krishna, by remembering his name and chanting his name, the offense will disappear. So how to make this disappear? By constantly chanting the name. Papakshayascha bhavati smaratam tam aharnisham namaparadhayuktanam namanyeva harantyagam ayuktani what is that? Namaparadhayuktanam Namanyeva harantyagam avishranti prayuktani tanyevarthakarani cha. So, how namaparadhayuktanam namanyeva harantyagam avishranti prayuktani tanyevarthakarani cha. So, by constantly, if one chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra offensively, one can avoid offenses by continuously chanting without deviation. Papakshayascha bhavati smaratam tam aharnisham. It is there in this verse. See, Vishwanath Chakravarti Ṭhākura quotes this verse from Padma Purana. Even in the same verse, even if in the beginning the one chants the Hare Krishna mantra with offenses, one will become free from such offenses by chanting again and again. Papakshayascha bhavati smaratam tamaharnisham. One becomes free from all sinful reactions if one chants day and night following the recommendation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Skirtaniya Sadahari. But that also we cannot do properly, you see. So we must chant as much as possible, and if we cannot, then we have to read, then we have to, do other service. We have to always be engaged in Krishna consciousness. So we should be conscious of Krishna all the time, whether by chanting, whether by working for him, whether by hearing about him, whether by doing various types of work, cooking or raising funds, or selling books, organizing festivals, doing even a website for Krishna, doing social media work for Krishna, anything, to spread Krishna's message. So anything Krishna's service under the guidance of devotees, that is all proper, authorized. So we have to be conscious of Krishna all the time. And service to him is the best way. By remembering Krishna, by remembering his name and chanting his name, the offense will disappear. According to the Vedic literature, there is no prayashchit or reformatory process or atonement more effective than this. This is because the Lord is an ocean of mercy and an ocean of forgiveness. Similarly, the devotee also forgives past faults. What was that verse? The other day also I showed, I again forgot. One should not take to any other process of atonement. In the 11th canto. What? I think it's in 11, 20, 20. 11, 20, 25. What a bang on target that was. Yadi kuryat pramadena yogi karma vigarhitam yogenaiva dahedam ho nanyat tatra kadachana na anyat tatra kadachana na anyat, no other means at any time should be employed. If because of momentary inattention a yogi accidentally commits an abominable activity, then by the very practice of yoga he should burn to ashes the sinful reaction without at any time employing any other procedure. So no other atonement to be done when we do any offense. It's just repeated chanting, repeated more and more chanting. Of course, if you are not on that level, then do everything that's possible, other services and everything possible. So Haridāsa concluded, one should avoid association with those who worship demigods as supreme. See, and rather worship the Vaishnavas who take Krishna as the supreme. See, one should also avoid association with the demigod worshippers. In this way, one can avoid the second offense. Wow. For one who performs his devotions at the feet of Haridāsa, the touchstone of the holy name, the name becomes his very life and soul. So that's today's topic. I think we will end it right there. And this disregarding the Guru, it's another whole big topic on itself. So we'll do this in the next session, and I will take any questions if you have. Okay, so that's where we will start in the next session. I think probably only on Wednesday. I don't know if it is possible Monday. I don't know. There's a lot of services actually recently, so I do not know how much time I can spare for this. Actually, I was thinking twice whether I can do it today or not, but I decided, okay, man, even if it's for 1 hour or something, let me do it. I think it's just 1 hour. I did only for 1 hour today. So, let me see if there are any questions. Rajeshwari Mataji, I have read in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that even Krishna's shade is also not different from him. Krishna's shadow is also not different from Krishna. So, Rajeshwari Mataji, thank you for connecting the word Advaya with our devotional services. How happy we can be when we relate this Advaya Tattva with our seva. Yeah, actually. Then we will be automatically more involved, and it drives us to become more involved, knowing that this is non-different from Krishna and every service is non-different from any other service. It's complete Advaya. That is the real meaning of Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. So, then whatever is services we are given, we will not like, oh, I don't like this service or that service. If it is a service to Krishna, for Krishna's sake, I must do anything. Like gopis, they're prepared to go to hell. Oh, but hell is not convenient for us. They will put us in boiling oil and all that. No. Whatever. For Krishna, we will go there. And and actually, when such a devotee takes in that good spirit, and in a spirit of complete surrender, the Lord awards him very quickly. I was actually reading, I will just share something. I was reading a story of a devotee called Mukunda Datta, devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, what happened, let me see if I can take it out quickly. Yeah, it is. In the CC, 17th chapter, this is mentioned. Yes. Okay. So here, this is Adilila 17.65. Chapter 17.65. Mukunda Dattere Koila Danda Prasāda Khandita Tāhara Chitter Sava Avasad. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed Mukunda Datta with punishment, blessed him with punishment, and in that way vanquished all his mental depression. So this is what happened. Purport. Mukunda Datta was once forbidden to enter the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because of his mixing with the Mayavadi impersonalists. When Lord Chaitanya manifested his Mahaprakash, he actually exhibited his kind of universal form that only some very confidential devotees could see. He called all the devotees, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called all the devotees one after another and blessed them, while Mukunda Datta stood outside the door. The devotees informed the Lord that Mukunda Datta was waiting outside, but the Lord replied, I shall not soon be pleased with Mukunda Datta. I shall not soon be pleased with Mukunda Datta, for though he explains devotional service among devotees, he then goes to Mayavadis to hear from them the Yoga Vasishtha Ramayana, which is full of Mayavad philosophy. So Ramayana, there are many, I think what I have understood is there are 300 versions of Ramayana are there. So there is some Yoga Vasishtha Ramayana, where there are, weird, full of Mayavad philosophy. For this I am greatly displeased with him. Hearing the Lord speak in that way, Mukunda Datta standing outside was exceedingly glad that the Lord would at some time be pleased with him, although he was not pleased at that moment. You see, the Lord said, I shall not soon be pleased. So he did not say, I shall not be pleased. I shall not soon be pleased. So at some time he will be pleased, right? He was happy. He was happy like that. So you see how devotee took the chastisement. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected him. You see, exceedingly glad that the Lord would at some time be pleased with him, although he was not pleased at that time. But when the Lord understood that Mukunda Datta was going to give up the association of Mayavadis for good, he was pleased and he at once called to see Mukunda. Thus he delivered him from the association of the Mayavadis and gave him the association of pure devotees. So immediately he got the audience of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similarly, we know the story of Suchi and the Muchi, the Brahmana and the cobbler. The cobbler, Brahmana was puffed up, but Viṣṇu said he has 100 lives. Cobbler, he said, he has as many lives as the number of leaves on on the banyan tree under which he is sitting and doing his cobbler work. And the Brahmana was very angry with him. What 100 lives? I am going 1 life. What nonsense you are talking? Then he said, then for the cobbler, it was like, oh, after all these lives, he is ready to accept me. I thought he will never do it, but he is so merciful that he is actually accepting me. So when he ecstatically he danced, then all the leaves fell and 1 leaf was remaining, and then after this life he went back. So when we accept the punishment of the Lord as a great blessing, the Lord immediately removes the punishment. But if we think that, oh, why the Lord punished me, then we need more punishment. So I don't know why I went there, but yeah, I just wanted to share that. Divya Mata. Oh, this is Brahma Samhita recitation. Yeah, we did a video on that one. So, thank you so much, Prabhuji, for letting us feel Krishna's name and form is non-different by explaining it more clearly. Honestly, this I am just reading from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Harinam Cintāmaṇi. Now, I don't have any great realizations about the holy name or the Krishna or anything like that, about devotional service. So these sessions actually help myself. I do these sessions for selfish reasons, to help myself to really strengthen conviction. So it is good for my own consciousness. So I don't come from a place where I am actually instructing all of you or explaining. I have revealed to you something which is about the holy name. Something. I am myself learning here. So I am a student here. This part of the screen is the teacher. This part of the screen, this is the student part. Together with the comment section. this part here, this is together with the comment section, and this part, that is Prabhupada and the Acharyas explaining. That is the real teacher part of this screen. So yeah, so Prabhuji, are we not supposed to Ramayana? Study Ramayana, you mean? Valmiki Ramayana is different. This is the Yoga Vasishtha Ramayana in the midst of Mayavadi philosophy. If we can, in the company of devotees is another thing. In company of non-devotees, those who are not in the strict standard of devotees, we should not really discuss. If we need to discuss anything, we have to explain to them about. But anyway, there are so many Prabhupada books, why Ramayana you can, for our own knowledge, we can read and understand what is the whole events that happen in Ramayana for our own knowledge. But Valmiki Ramayana, so in that way it is okay, but in the association of non-devotees, well, no. What are we going to gain from reading with them? Nothing. Well, actually, you see what happened to Mukunda Datta. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, don't come. Then when he understood that he was no more going to them, okay, then you come. So, alright. So, I think we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Harinam Cintāmaṇi ki jai, Haridāsa Thakur ki jai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.